Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast is your one-stop shop for fantasy football news and advice. Can't decide on who to draft on the first round? Going gaga on how to line up your team. Got you covered. Traditional leagues, dynasty leagues, PPR leagues, IDP league, even daily fantasy football league. Join us as we break down all the questions of fantasy football. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast.
What is going on, guys? It is the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast coming back at you again with another episode on this Thursday afternoon. Got the Vikings squaring off right now against the Eagles in what looks to not be the shutout that I predicted. Looks like Jalen Hurts just got in the end zone though. So, 10-7, I think. Nothing crazy. Definitely not a shootout. Thank you guys for tuning in, though. Going live at 7 p.m. every single day, Mountain Time. And obviously, because we're in Mountain Time, it'll make sense that I am live from Colorado. And CU playing against CSU this week. I'm live from Fort Collins. So, we are about to get our whole behind handed to us on this Saturday afternoon by Coach Prime, Travis Hunter, and Shedeur Sanders. It's going to be a absolute rout, and I'm not even going to tune in because we already know what's going to happen. So that's unfortunate for us, but I've never been a CSU football fan anyway. Go Buffs. You love to see it. Make sure you guys are tuning into our Patreon. We're always dropping extra segments over there, exclusive content for the Patreon. The basketball podcast as well as the baseball podcast are doing the Patreon as well, so that's the only place you can get our exclusive content if you are looking for some extra segments. If you're a real sports junkie, sports fanatic, just can't get enough, I completely understand because I'm right there with you. Today, I was just chilling, just came from a rec basketball game that we lost, unfortunately. I am here. I just want to show you with my boy. This is Bentley. Very cute pups. This is my guy. We're definitely going to go for a walk after this. He is my 9-year-old French Bulldog. Just a little bit about me, if you guys are curious in any way. Yeah, that's my best friend right there. But without further ado, let's get into some fantasy news. ASAP, no Rocky. Jonathan Taylor. Look, I drafted Jonathan Taylor both ways in both of my leagues. And, I'm taking that chance on him because when he's 20 touches per game, he is absolutely dangerous, home run hitter in every aspect of the word. And apparently there's new news coming out that he could pass his physical as soon as Sunday to be ready for that Week 5 start, whether that be with the Colts or they can find him a trade. I would have to assume right now that they're just going to work it out for this season. Apparently for his contract account and for his money to be able to keep coming in the next couple of years, he has to he only has to play one game. So that's the thing. He could either choose to just get his one game played, play his one snap or whatever, and then his agent's like, you don't want to pay us, then we're just going to decide to go another way. And, I had my one game. He only needs one game. That's what I heard on ESPN today, which is kind of crazy. But he obviously does want to get paid, does want to get those game checks. So I'd have to imagine this is a guy that enjoys football in, every essence. So hopefully he comes back. It's looking better right now. Aaron Jones did not practice today. He had the hamstring after the big run. After his catch, he scored the touchdown, and he was grabbing at his leg. He did not practice today, so that's not the best sign. Brandon Cooks going through the sprained MCL right now. He also did not practice today. And then Travis Kelce did practice yesterday, but it was limited. At the time that I did my notes, there was no update on what Travis Kelce did today. Hopefully he practiced, but you just never know these days. You just never know. First thing I want to get into today is some DFS, some daily fantasy sports for the Sunday games. And I made a little, $20. There's $1 million up top, and of course I'm going to win the $1 million. Super excited to be one of the richest people my age. I don't know, maybe there's a lot of 24-year-old millionaires, but I'm about to be one of them come this Sunday, so I'm super excited about that. and I did play this at DraftKings. I'm pretty sure that's really like the only relevant daily fantasy sports place that you can play these. My two favorite things are the classic and the captain. The classic just being where you get the $50,000 salary, and you can't go over the $50,000 salary. So you see me right here. All these guys I picked one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, and I had to spread out that $50,000 between those 8 guys. And I'm just gonna kind of tell y'all what I was thinking as I was drafting these guys and walk you through my strategy. And I think I had a pretty solid strategy here. It was basically off week one. And I always will find ways to like differentiate, follow different trends, and I would recommend that everybody do the same. Don't just like go off last week. This is not generally a good strategy. Make sure you're looking at the whole picture and zooming out. But for me, I did just go off kind of like last week's stats and things that I like, things that I saw. So let's get right into that. So I had the 50K salary. Like I said, first place gets a mil, and I'm going to win. Super excited. And with my quarterback, I go with Brock Purdy playing against the Rams. And the Rams looked extra bad last week. Kind of from a defensive perspective, and they really didn't get the best game out of Geno. But, Brock Purdy has showed me everything that I need to see. You get him at a really good price. He was like the 13th or the 14th most expensive quarterback out here. He's got the best weapons in the league with Christian McCaffrey. Someone was talking about it today. He could literally play probably slot receiver in the league and, not play running back at all and still make just as much of a difference for any given team. And got Kittle, got Ayuk, got Deebo Samuel. Those are all some dogs. And he's going up against a pretty bad Rams defense without Jalen Ramsey anymore. I was looking at their depth chart. I really didn't know who the heck any of these DBs were. So I'm just going to take my chances with, the solid game manager in Brock Purdy with a ton of weapons at a good price at $5,700. Really, the most expensive guy that you'll see is like $8,000. If you look at Jamar Chase right there, Jamar Chase, like $7,900, and he was like the second most expensive wide receiver. I think Christian McCaffrey was like $8,000. I just didn't really want to grab him. Wanted to save some money and spend it in other places. But you see me on the second guy. I go with Mr. Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, about to go crazy this week, absolutely. Going up against a bad defense, the Chargers, playing the Chargers at home for their home debut. And, everyone is just piling it on Brandon Staley, the Chargers head coach, because apparently he doesn't know how to coach. He's a defensive-minded guy, and they spend the most money on their defense, and he just can't get the defense right. And I'm sure every single sports commentator has talked about this week, just because they're bad. And they have good players, they got good personnel, and they just can't get it done on the defensive side of the ball, and that's unfortunate. But I'm going to try to take advantage of that right here and grab Derrick Henry. They're probably going to stack the box, but I don't think it matters. I think they're still going to have a pretty good time playing offense against this bad defense. The one bad thing is Hopkins' ankle, so they will be able to kind of focus way more on Derrick Henry, but I still expect him to get 20-plus touches, and I'll take what I can get against the bad Chargers defense with Derrick Henry. Next guy, I got Kenneth Walker at $5,800, so just $100 more than Brock Purdy. Trying to find some relevant value with some strong guys that I think are good. Last year, if you remember, when the Seahawks played the Lions, it was an absolute shootout, and there was 70-plus points scored. So kind of playing to that game script a little bit, hoping that there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game, and that Kenneth Walker maybe busts one out for like 80 yards and a tutty. That is the best case scenario for me here, of course. Lions were also the second worst tackling defense in week one. And I was really just thinking about that game from last year. That was absolutely so crazy. And they both just were putting up points right to the end of the game. And that's kind of why I go with the next guy right here. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Last year in that game that I'm talking about, he had 111 yards and a touchdown. kind of hoping for the same thing. Just really playing to that game script. I don't think it's wrong. If you have a read, just go with that. Like, if you think that multiple guys in this game could go crazy, and you've seen it with your eyes, that it happened before, and you think it could happen again, I think it's good to go with that game script. It doesn't have to be this exact game, but just try to find one that you like and grab a couple guys, and that's really how you win one of these. You don't win by just grabbing one guy from every game and just hoping and praying. You gotta really be playing off the game script. Next guy, I go Jamar Chase. He was my most expensive guy after literally like having a really bad game last week. Obviously had some bad weather. Go ahead and stay tuned to the end too, because I got a whole segment on the weather that's going to be happening this weekend. Should be kind of interesting to see. I know a lot of people were going with like the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase stack and didn't even know that it was going to be extremely rainy. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But Jamar Chase going up against Baltimore Ravens. He has a really good history against them. Has multiple really good games with 9+ catches, 80+ yards and touchdowns all over the board. So I kind of expect him to get this done again in their home opener. Expect a bounce back, him and Joe Burrow to be hungry to not get embarrassed next, this upcoming week. But, we'll see what happens, because I'm not too confident. Jamar was my first pick, so I really need him to get it done. So I took him here because I believe in the guy, I guess. Next guy, we got Tank Dell. And obviously, like, this is the thing with DFS. You get really low on money. Obviously, this guy was my last guy that I picked. He's my least expensive guy that I picked too, $3,200. But, I'm a big Texans guy. Our number, I guess, I don't know how you would, like, really categorize these wide receivers with Nico Collins. We had Noah Brown, but he's the one who just got injured, and that is why I took Tank Dell. And then we have Nico Collins, Noah Brown, Tank Dell, and I guess we have Dalton Schultz as well. He plays into the receiving lineup too, but I go with Tank Dell here just because he's an explosive athlete, hometown kid, and I think he has a lot of upside for my favorite team, so definitely a little bit of bias, but, nothing wrong with a little bit of sports bias. You got to make it fun for you, make it fun for you to watch it all play out. Next guy with my tight end, I go with Dalton Kincaid just because I really liked him in week 1, and I really didn't like Gabe Davis in week 1. And I don't see Gabe Davis honestly getting anything done probably for the whole year. Maybe he has one or two breakout games where he has the touchdowns and maybe catches a deep ball. But I think Dalton Kincaid is going to start to take over as the number 2 receiver in this offense. So I go with him at a really good price, only at $3,300, literally $100 more than Tank Dell when he was getting multiple targets last week. So I think that's just cash money. Then we got Rachaad White, who got 19 touches in week 1. Obviously hate his quarterback in Baker Mayfield. Literally hate him. To be honest, I can't stand that guy in any way, but 19 touches at a good price versus a bad defense. That's just, I'm going to take that every single time. The Bears look terrible in week 1 against a quarterback that really doesn't have any experience. So they will probably look pretty bad against a Baker Mayfield-led offense. This is not me believing in Baker in any way, but only believing in Rachaad White. Lastly, for the defense, I go with Colts defense. Saw nothing good from my Texans, unfortunately. Obviously, hope Tank Dell has himself a day, but C.J. Stroud was looking extremely antsy back in the pocket. His feet were not set. He was not throwing good balls, and I fully expect the Colts to jump all over him and get a big win in the division. Maybe turn him over, get a pick 6, and I win $1 million. That's the dream. That is absolutely the dream for me. But yeah, let me know what y'all thought about my DFS picks. If you would have changed anything, if there's any guys that you like, always good to hear the feedback. But that is my first segment here. When we come back, we're going to talk about waiver wire shots that I think y'all should take. Unfortunately, one guy's already playing, so he's going to be locked up. But when I come back, we'll be able to talk about all that. Cool. Be right back. Alright, we are back. Got some much needed water after running around for multiple minutes in my fantasy game. In my rec basketball league. Only put up 11 points today, guys. That is not what we're looking for. I'm a 20 point per game scorer. But look, we're going to be going into my waiver wire shots that I think, these are ones that I would take, guys that I have taken myself. And we're going to start with Mr. Rashad Penny, who is playing right now as we are speaking to each other. This guy, 5'11", 220, pretty big body. He, over the course of his, not over the course of his career, but in 2020, he averaged 6.3 yards per attempt, which was good for a tie at number one, only with Josh Allen. So, we look at this guy as like an efficient back. Obviously, he's playing for the Eagles, who have a really solid O-line, and they don't really have a workhorse. They got Gainwell, who's like a much smaller guy. I would classify him as like an elusive back type guy, and they got Boston Scott as well, who's like all the way down there and is like their Swiss Army knife. He kind of does a lot for them, and then obviously they picked up Swift, who is going to be like the third down back, and we really don't know how their backfield is going to shake out. We just know that their offensive line is one that is extremely dominant, and they should have at least one running back that should be doing damage on the ground. It can't just be all Jalen Hurts in the running game. One of these guys is going to have to step it up, and I do believe it to be Penny. Miles Sanders in a similar position, being the big bruiser, not really the pass-catching back. Last year, he put up 1,200 yards behind this O-line. I'm not saying we're going to get 1,200 yards from Penny, but I'm hoping that, with his efficiency, he's also kind of a home run hitter as well, that he could run behind this O-line, get between the tackles, something Swift really doesn't do. So, I like him and being a pickup. He wasn't even active week one, but we'll see if he can start making some moves. They don't currently have that lead back. So we really will see. He's only rostered in 56% of leagues right now. So I think he's at least worth like a pickup. A lot of us have trash at the end of our fantasy team. So I wouldn't mind having Rashad Penny than like, a backup tight end if you have a solid guy at your tight end one, or, dropping one of your rookies that you're trying to invest in, because, most of them aren't going to pan out anyway, unfortunately. So definitely Rashad Penny is somebody that I like. Gotta get some more water. Next guy I'm liking, this guy right here, Jonathan Mingo. Added with him, I'm also going to talk about Hayden Hurst. I know I talked about him yesterday. If you want to see that episode, just go ahead and click on the last fantasy episode. It has the Book It with Trent little logo on it. I talked about the goat whale yesterday, and I'm sure everybody is interested in hearing about my analysis for the goat whale. So if you want to check that out, you can watch the last video and do that. But Jonathan Mingo here, only rostered in 16.1% of leagues, and he's truly the wide receiver 2 for the Carolina Panthers. I would say wide receiver 2 just because they pay Adam Thielen so much that you have to classify him as your wide receiver 1. But, measurables wise, size, strength, and athleticism, I would say he's even better than Thielen. So he might be Bryce Young's best option to get the ball to in the receiving game from an athleticism standpoint. And I fully expect Bryce Young and the Panthers to put up some points this year. In college last year, he threw for like 47 touchdowns. So I don't think he's going to just accept being one of those quarterbacks who doesn't come out and, immediately start hooping, because he seems like a guy who's like, I got it right now. I'm turning it on immediately. Faced a pretty tough defense and had a pretty tough game week one. And I think that a lot of that is because of his lack of weapons. Jonathan Mingo being your number 2 wide receiver isn't necessarily the best thing in the world for you as a quarterback. But, he has a couple of other places he can go. He's obviously an athletic guy who can use his feet as well. But, I like Jonathan Mingo and Hayden Hurst to get some attention from him. Hayden Hurst will be like his guy that he really relies on in those crucial third down situations, stuff like that. Last week, week 1, he had 5 targets being Mingo, and then 7 targets for Hurst. So I do love their upside, mainly in deep leagues, not really in like a 10-team fantasy league. It would more need to be like a 12 or a 14-team league that I would be targeting those guys in. Next guy we're going to talk about is this. I can't really call him like a beautiful guy because he's kind of ugly, but that's Hunter Henry. He was the tight end number 1. He finished as numero uno amongst every single tight end in the entire league this past week 1. Don't expect that too often just because of, Mac Jones and not a very explosive offense. This guy will not be a top 5 tight end probably by the end of the year. Just expect that. But he's only don't have the information on how much he is rostered. But obviously this guy has some upside, played 79% of snaps, had a sick one-handed catch on like a crucial 4th down against the Eagles, and he made it look like it was nothing. 6'5", 258, we like his measurables. He's a big guy who can box out linebackers, and more importantly, Mac Jones loves this guy. Feels like the Patriots love all their tight ends. He's available in my fantasy league somehow. I have Hawkinson, so I didn't decide to pick him up, but maybe I could have picked him up and traded him. That's all. You always got to remember that's an option for you to do. Pick up a guy and somebody else needs him, and then you can just trade him right over to there and pick up some extra value. That's all fantasy is about, just grabbing more value, more value, more value, more value. Next guy we're going to talk about, this guy finished as quarterback number 3. Quarterback number 3 in the entire league, and was probably the guy with the most question marks coming into the year. Being Jordan Love, 23 fantasy points in week 1. It went Tua at quarterback number 1, Mac at quarterback number 2, and then Jordan Love at quarterback number 3. Dog, if you would have told me that those are the top 3 quarterbacks week 1, when I was so excited to watch Joe Burrow and, guys like Pat Mahomes just like splash and put up 40, Josh Allen, I maybe would have put Tua in there, but I definitely wouldn't have put Mac Jones or Jordan Love. Obviously a pretty weird week 1, and that's why you can't pay attention to the popular opinion all the time. I'm always telling you, do not just sit there and pay attention to the popular opinion. Go your own route, make your own guesses and opinions as it pertains to, these weird players that a lot of people haven't seen play. He did also have the best QBR in week 1. Obviously, he played against the Bears. I would always be targeting the Bears defense for, fantasy implications. If I'm playing against the Bears defense, especially like my really good players, or if like I run a 2-quarterback system where I got, 2 mid-tier quarterbacks and one of them is playing the Bears, I'm probably just going to go ahead and rock with the guy who is playing against them because they have not shown anything in their past. Like even at the end of last year, they were looking extra bad. So I think they're always good to go up against. Jordan Love, as far as his weapons go, he has a ton of weapons too. Christian Watson's coming back. He didn't even play week 1, and they still wallop these guys. He's obviously got Aaron Jones, who may be sitting down, but got a really strong guy in A.J. Dillon as well. Dobbs had 2 touchdowns. I'm also super high on Jaden Reed, the slot receiver from Michigan State. I actually started him for some reason over Tyler Algier because I was that high on him. That was a mistake. Don't be like me, please. Got Samori Torrey as well, who nobody really talks about, but he makes big plays on offense. And then they got the rookie tight end Luke Musgrave, who is growing with hype, and he's also getting rostered in a lot more fantasy leagues right now too. But it's kind of weird. Jordan Love hasn't played too many games. This is like really the first year he's going to get time that's honestly his own and where he feels like and his team feels like he's actually like the leader on the team. So he's kind of like the vet here. This is really only his third year in the league, but the Packers kind of like farmed these quarterbacks in a way. It was Brett Favre first. Aaron Rodgers sat under Brett Favre for however long, came in, was a dog. Now Jordan Love, he sat under Aaron Rodgers for however long, and maybe he'll be a dog. He did already lead all quarterbacks in QBR week 1, so that's definitely a good sign. Might be a guy that you guys look to pick up on the waiver wire. Last guy we're gonna touch on here, one Rashid Shaheed, and then this will finish up my segment 2 of my waiver wire shots that I want you guys to take. This guy, he's pretty fast. It's kind of weird. He's a guy that I was looking into as I was watching him absolutely get down in week 1. He put up 19 fantasy points, and the guy is literally only rostered in 19% of ESPN fantasy leagues. He was going up against a pretty bad defense with the Titans. The only guy I know back there is Kevin Byard, and he was making plays, but he can't cover for every single person. I think they also have Caleb Farley too, who is a pretty solid corner, but the Saints just have multiple weapons that they're able to use to their advantage, and him being one of them. Michael Thomas looks pretty back. Olave never went anywhere, and he was injured for a little bit, but immediately puts up 100 yards in week 1. And then Rashid Shaheed goes for 5 catches, 89 yards, and a touchdown in week 1. Also added in 2 rushes for 11 yards. I love those wide receivers that get like those little jet sweeps and the little rushing efficiency, because you really just take everything that you can get in fantasy. The thing I like the most about this guy is he is an absolute home run hitter as well. I'm always looking for a home run hitter, a guy who could just take it 80 yards and go untouched into the end zone. He runs a 4.3 flat, so that means a 4.30. Like some people run like a 4.40, and that's really fast. He's a whole, 1/10 of a second faster. So he's like elite speed. It's weird because what I was gonna say, he wasn't even like that efficient in college. He went to Weber State. The only other athlete here, Weber State, went undrafted and is making a difference for the Saints, and I think he may possibly be worthy of a waiver wire shot if you guys are willing to take it in a bit of a deeper league. 19 points going to get it done in any league, so watch out for Rashid Shaheed. Cool. When we come back, we're going to be talking about my boomer bust guys. Make sure y'all stay for that because it's going to be cool. Y'all will definitely love the boomer bust segment. We will be right back. Oh man, I don't even think we went anywhere. I hope we did. But we're back now. We'll be back. We got the boomer bust segment coming right at y'all. Let's get this off. Boom or bust. And, just a quick note. I obviously was playing my little rec game before this. I feel like it's just 10 times better if I just get like a run or like a nice workout before the show. I'm definitely gonna start doing that. But we got the boomer bust segment coming at y'all live from Fort Collins, Colorado, where we were about to get smacked by Coach Prime. That's gonna be exciting. Like I said, I'm not watching the game. So first guy I'm gonna talk about is Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson had maybe one of the most impressive rookie performance we've seen to date, at least from being that Swiss Army knife, being that Um, just guy who can kind of do everything for his team from an offensive perspective. And Bijan Robinson is not playing any games right now. He is looking strong. He's looking fast. His acceleration is some of the best I've seen in the league, period. Um, but I honestly do have him busting this week. And that may not be a popular opinion, but like I said, we're not going with the popular opinions. You gotta really believe whatever you believe, and this is just what I'm thinking this week. And I don't think he's gonna bust necessarily, but definitely regress from the action that he had last week. And the first reason is just gonna be because Tyler Algier is probably a solid running back too now. He stole 15 carries from Bijan, 75 yards and 2 touchdowns. When that's what your backup's doing, and then your top guy didn't even do better than that. I think that definitely says something about his workload and how Tyler Algier is absolutely going to get his carries kind of no matter what, because he's solid. If we remember Tyler Algier, 1,000-yard rusher last year, he's not playing no games either. But I do have Bijan regressing also because Packers are top 10 defense. They were looking really good week one in every single metric. They were top 10, including the pass rush and the run defense on PFF. Not a great sign for a untrusted quarterback in Desmond Ridder. I really don't trust him yet. I don't think we've seen the best from him. But they do have Showtime Heineke behind there as their quarterback number 2. So I feel like he's going to at least make an appearance this year. I'm excited to see Taylor Heineke pop out for sure. Next guy I'm going with, and I have this guy booming, is Mr. Joe Burrow. Had an absolute trash game, probably the worst game of his career ever, and has never beat the Browns in Cleveland. Didn't happen last week, I'll tell you that. But I think the script is off this week. His record is 3-2 against the Ravens, so at least a winning record. And that's had some pretty good games. I was looking at StatMuse, and he hasn't gone under 200 yards in any game against the Ravens. So I think I'd be really surprised if he does anything less than 200 yards. If he goes for another 82-yard game, I'm definitely going to think it's scripted after he gets paid in that fashion. Believe he's hungry to perform, hungry to get back on Sports Illustrated or wherever he's trying to go this year, get all his endorsement money after signing the super fat contract. Super excited for that. Has all the weapons that he possibly needs with literally 2 top 10 receivers from a talent perspective. And the Ravens D is pretty good, just like the Packers. They in week 1 ranked in all top 10 in all the metrics, but I think they're just going to overpower them this week in their home opener, and expect Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow to have a pretty big game. Next guy, just on the other side of the ball in that Bengals-Ravens game, we're going to go with Mark Andrews. He did miss week 1 with the quad, I believe. The quad injury. But he returned to practice yesterday, and listen to this. In the last 2 games versus the Bengals, this being the most recent game, 8 catches for 89 yards and a touchdown off 10 targets. And then the game prior, 8 catches for 125 yards and a touchdown. So it doesn't seem like these guys know what to do with Mark Andrews, and I can't blame them. That guy's big. That guy's fast. Makes a lot of moves in the open field, or he'll just run right over you, however you really want it. And the Bengals safeties haven't been able to hang. They don't even have Jesse Bates anymore. I was looking at their depth chart. Their linebackers are poo-poo. Their safeties are mid-tier at best. So I'm expecting a boom from Mark Andrews this week. Next guy we're going with is Najee Harris, playing the Browns on one of the 2 Monday night games. There are 2 Monday night games, if you guys didn't know this week. Always weird when they do that. I don't know why they would have 2 Monday night games. I want all the games on Sunday. I want it all at the same time so I can, indulge it and eat all the football that I can possibly have in one sitting. That's what I'm looking for. But week 1, Najee Harris absolutely pooped the bed. He was no good, but nobody was good on the Steelers offense week 1. They, absolutely got torn up by Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, and Fred Warner from the 49ers. And they honestly are looking like the most dominant team in the league right now. The 49ers weren't even favored that heavily and ended up beating them by like 30 points. That was an absolute slaughter. Probably have the Steelers getting slaughtered again in week 2 against a pretty decent Browns team. They look real good against the Bengals last week in a really bad weather game. The weather was absolutely so bad, and that's why I feel like I have to go over the weather in my next segment, just because nobody pays attention to it for fantasy or betting perspectives. So I want to make sure to go over that. So stay tuned for my weather recap on Sunday, Monday. But Najee has a pretty good history against the Browns. He literally has a touchdown in all of the 4 games that he's played ever against the Browns. But just the lack of talent and arm talent, I guess, from Kenny Pickett, and lack of just being able to get the ball to his receivers. Interesting stat, he only had 7 touchdowns in 15 games last year. Everybody's real high on Pickett, and I don't think he's bad, like really, really bad. And I think he's has more upside than like a Baker Mayfield type guy, a Zach Wilson type guy, but he really hasn't put it all together yet, and I don't think we can give him his flowers yet. And that's going to absolutely affect a guy like Najee Harris. They're also not going to have Deontay Johnson this week, so they're going to be relying on Najee and NFL youngboy George Pickens, but I don't think it'll be enough, and I think kind of everybody busts on the Steelers offense this week. Next guy I want to talk about, super explosive guy, absolute animal in college, and showed us, a little bit week 1 in Jahmyr Gibbs. Underdog reported that his workload will just continue to increase throughout the year. So absolutely something to pay attention to if you're a fantasy manager of Jahmyr Gibbs. You're going to get the dual threat there with the rushing and the receiving. Looks really explosive. Had a chance to score a touchdown and just slipped. Looked like the moment was just a little too big for him, and he pissed down his leg. And, that's okay, because he's going to get a lot more chances throughout the year to not piss down his leg and not slip and get into the end zone and make plays for whoever's fantasy team he needs. He doesn't need to do that for me. I'm sure I'm going to be playing against Jahmyr Gibbs, but I do have him to boom this week just because I am predicting that big shootout in the Lions and the Seahawks game. In Ford Field, it's the Dome. No weather conditions are going to affect anything that's happening. So, 2 good offenses and, subpar defenses. I just see this being a big boom from Jahmyr Gibbs and a big boom for a lot of the players in that fantasy game all around. Whew. Jeez. So hard to just keep talking and talking and talking and talking. Whew. Next guy, we got Dameon Pierce, my running back, the Texans running back. One, straight out of Florida, supposed to be an absolute dog, going up against the Colts, and I have him busting this week. Not surprising. I think I have everybody besides hopefully Tank Dell who can make a huge play for my DFS so I can become a millionaire this week. But I got Dameon Pierce busting for, somewhat obvious reasons. Currently we have a banged up O-line. 2 of our starters are sitting down, and I also talked about CJ Stroud briefly earlier. CJ Stroud is just it's unfortunate right now, and I know it's just going to be a process for him, and he's going to start slow. His feet are just not where you want them to be from a quarterback perspective. He's not making the throws that we need him to. Obviously, it's been 1 week, so I can't harp on him too hard, but I just don't even see him as a threat as a quarterback. He's going to need multiple games, and I think the defense are just going to key on Dameon Pierce because Stroud is not a threat yet, and we don't have weapons that really matter from offense perspective besides Dameon Pierce. Colts front 4 is absolutely crazy. They got DeForest Buckner, Samson Ebukam, and Kwity Paye up there as well, with having Shaq Leonard, who's probably the best linebacker in the league right now. I got a bust day from Mr. Dameon Pierce on Sunday, unfortunately. 2 more guys I'm going to hit, both pretty interesting guys. First guy's going to be Deshaun Watson against the Steelers. Obviously, the Steelers' defense is supposed to be one of the most elite, at all times, with T.J. Watt being their leader, Minka back there, two literal Defensive Player of the Year candidates. Every single game should be making plays. But I do have him booming, and I was like back or forth whether I wanted to go with a boom or a bust for Deshaun Watson. But I think it's just like Deshaun Watson's season. I think he's going to silence all the haters this year. Um, you know, Obviously he's going up against a good defense, but I think they just have better weapons from a wide receiver and running back perspective. Nick Chubb just helps so much being able to set up that play action down the field. And they're really high on Elijah Moore right now. They obviously have one of the best possession guys already in Amari Cooper. And then, DPJ too. Everybody sleeps on him. He's a deep threat. So, they have a bunch of ways to go. Got Njoku playing tight end. So I do see a boom from Deshaun Watson from a season perspective. And then also in this game, I think he gives the Steelers a pretty good test. Running the ball himself, passing the ball, and especially the play action game for Deshaun, beating it to Nick Chubb a bunch, then setting up the play action deep to probably DPJ down the field. But definitely got a boom for Deshaun Watson. Last guy we're going to hit, someone who really impressed me in week one was Michael Thomas for the Saints. Got a new quarterback, and it seems like he's using his new toy, Michael Thomas, fully in a big way. And he's looking for him in those short yardage situations. He's looking for him, in those third down situations when he really needs a catch. And Michael Thomas, when he was healthy, he was like the best possession guy in the entire league. And this week he gets to go up against a terrible Panthers secondary. They showed how bad their defense was. They were literally ranked like worst defensive metrics in every single PFF stat. So definitely something to pay attention to if you're going to be looking to play some DFS. You have guys on the Saints, or you're looking to put some money down on this beautiful Sunday that's coming up. I would be targeting a team like the Panthers defense because it just doesn't look like they have it together this year. But as far as Michael Thomas, 8 targets week one. He's only 30 years old. He's been struggling through injury the past couple of years, but at some point he's gonna want his legacy to actually, mean something, and he's gonna want to actually be something, and that's something I really do believe. Coming out of Ohio State, he was the most heralded receiver, literally in a while. Put up a crazy season where I'm pretty sure he led the entire league in yards, and new quarterback who's gonna give him a fresh start. He doesn't have Jameis Winston back there, eating W's or whatever he was doing. And, I just think he has a great matchup this week, and he's been due to be really good for a really long time. So that's going to be my last guy that I'm predicting a boom. Make sure you come back. After this break, we're going to go over the fantasy weather report, and I'm just going to kind of tell y'all about all the weather that's going to be happening so you know where to fade and you know where to, actually place your fantasy guys, and just to have that clarity and have that awareness of what's going to happen for the weather. So we'll be right back to talk about that. back to this weather report coming to you live from GSMC Fantasy Football, sponsored by the GSMC Sports Network. I thank you guys for tuning in and checking up on us. I'm glad that I could bring y'all some relevant information, and I'm glad that I could bring y'all the weather report this week, so you know where to fade, where to not have your matchups, where to you have your matchups. Me personally, I like to stay in that 79 and sunny area. That's where I like to be. That is perfect football weather. Unless you have like a defense, it's always good to go with a defense. In some rain, in some uncertainty, when it comes down to that winter time in the snow. I'm looking to have my defense playing in the snow every single time. But without further ado, let's go and look at our first game here, Atlanta versus Green Bay, happening in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That is a dome, so weather will be irrelevant in that one. So no need to pay attention to that. Next game, we got the Raiders versus the Bills in Highmark Park in Buffalo, New York. We're going to be 70 degrees in Buffalo on Sunday and a 33% chance of rain. So definitely pay attention to that. Ball's going to be a little slippery. Maybe not too much. Something to note, when it says 33% chance of rain, that means 100% chance of rain in 33% of the area. So it's definitely going to rain in Buffalo. We just don't know if it's definitely going to be at Highmark Park. Next game, Ravens versus the Bengals at Paycor Stadium in Cincinnati. 77 degrees with 30% chance of rain. So Joe Burrow might be, in another rainy day. And we just saw how he performed in his first rainy day. And that was no good. And the only thing that I've heard people blaming his horrible performance where, he had 82 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions, which, it honestly makes me mad that he didn't even have a pick. Like, you're not even trying to go downfield, man. You don't even want to, take a chance to try to win the game. Y'all put up 3 points. Throw a pick, bro. But there's definitely going to be some rain in the area. So if Joe Burrow's kryptonite is rain, maybe stay away from him this game, possibly. I have him having a big game, but obviously he just performed terribly in the rain, so pay attention to that. Detroit versus Seattle. Like I said, this is Ford Field. It's in a dome. Weather is irrelevant. Don't need to worry about Detroit and Seattle. That's the game that I have being the highest scoring. Absolute shootout. Hopefully, want to see Geno make some throws. Want to see Jared make some throws. Next, we got the Titans. Titans playing at Nissan Stadium. It's going to be 85 degrees and sunny with 9-mile-per-hour winds. So hopefully, in the second half, whatever team that you're needing is getting the wind to their back, because that's always what you want is wind to your back, for running purposes, and maybe get an extra loft on your kick or on your throw. So definitely pay attention to that. Always important to pay attention, especially in a really nice day, to what the wind is doing. So keep that in mind. Next game, we got Tampa at Raymond James Stadium. Tampa playing against the Bears. Going to be 91 degrees and 7-mile-per-hour winds. Just looking like a beautiful football day. Obviously going to be a little hot. Maybe somebody catches a cramp and, calls for the Pedialyte. Give me the Pedialyte. I need it. At least that's what I was doing when I was playing football. If it was hot, I need some Gatorade or some Pedialyte or something to keep the cramps away. Next game, we got Jacksonville at Everbank Field. Looking like 87 degrees with thunderstorms, 40% chance of rain, so 100% chance of rain, 40% of the area. They're playing against the Bears and two just subpar quarterbacks from a throwing perspective. So that's another part of the reason why I really like Rashad White in that game, just because he's gonna get 20 touches and probably most of the touches are gonna be on the ground. Also, can see Justin Fields running around the field. I know y'all remember that classic viral video when he was playing in the rain and he's sliding after he just ran for 100 and a touchdown for sure. So pay attention to the Jacksonville game, where there is a 40% chance of rain over there. Next game, we got Houston and NRG Stadium versus the Colts. 93 degrees and sunny, 7-mile-per-hour winds. It's looking like a great game for the Colts to probably beat up on on the sad Houston Texans. D'Amico Ryans is looking to change our culture though, so I don't want to get too down on my boys. Looks like we're at least on a good path to rebuild, but 93 degrees and sunny is looking like good football weather to me, especially down in Houston. In Los Angeles, they're going to be taking on the 49ers. 77 degrees with 4-mile-per-hour winds. That is perfect football weather. It looks like nothing should get affected. Whatever happens in this game. And I think what's going to happen is the 49ers putting on a dominant performance in SoFi Stadium. Next game, we got Arizona, and this is also a dome, State Farm Field. It makes sense because apparently I was looking it up today. Obviously, it's going to be 102 degrees on Sunday in Arizona. So I'm going to stay as far away from Arizona as humanly possible. I'm going to stay right in Fort Collins because that's just where I stay. So, but yeah, 102 degrees in Arizona. Don't got to worry about it though because it's a dome. Hopefully they got AC in that dome so it doesn't get too hot. But next game we got Dallas in the retractable dome, 90 degrees, sunny, 6-mile-per-hour winds. Looks like nothing to worry about. Zach Wilson and the Jets are coming in to play Dallas, so make sure you fade Zach Wilson by any means necessary. Definitely got Dak throwing a pick, which is definitely going to hurt. Booker with Trent and the GOAT will. I could see Sauce Gardner was the dude who had 3 picks last week, probably going stupid again. No question about that. Next game, we got Denver right here at home for me in Power Field, 83 degrees, 6-mile-per-hour winds. Again, Sam Howell and the Commanders. If Russ doesn't get that done, future 1. If Russ can't beat the Commanders at home, after we couldn't get it done against a very close game against the Raiders, then Ripsky. I'm playing quarterback for the Broncos if Russ can't get it done this week. Next game, we're down at Foxborough for Sunday Night Football, NBC. And we got the Dolphins playing against Mac Jones and the Patriots. This one is absolutely not a dome. I'm sure you've seen all of the snow games in Foxborough where Tom Brady's just winning Super Bowl after Super Bowl and just, being that guy in every aspect of that guydom. But 76 degrees, 9-mile-per-hour winds. Once it gets up to like 15-mile-per-hour winds, that's when I start to worry about like balls sailing and stuff. But 9 miles per hour is still like something, especially for like a kicker. Maybe a kicker can get it like a longer kick in just because of the wind if it's at his back. But if it's at his front, then that's kind of tough too because 9 miles per hour. You think about you're going 9 miles per hour in your car or something. That's relatively fast. Like you get hit going 9 miles per hour by a large, vehicular mobile, you're gonna be hurting. So pay attention to that. Next game, got the 2 Monday Night Football games in Charlotte, North Carolina, 82 degrees, 5-mile-per-hour winds on Monday. Coming off Sunday, it's gonna be extremely rainy, and I assume that's part of the reason that they put this game on Monday, just because they're gonna have a big old rainstorm. Maybe they didn't factor that in at all and just got lucky. But it's gonna be very humid as well. Light in the air, so sometimes the ball can fly a little bit more from the quarterback when it's more humid. Something to definitely pay attention to. And then finally, in Pittsburgh, 70 degrees, 8-mile-per-hour winds against the Browns. No chance of rain, so Kenny Pickett's gloves should still be fine and still be tacky, and maybe he can make a throw and give the Steelers a chance to win this game. You never know ever until you see it, and that's why we love football so much. I could sit here and talk about football all day, but it really doesn't mean nothing until these guys come out and actually smack each other in the mouth. That's really what it's all about. Thank you guys for watching. If you stayed to the end, I really do appreciate it. Obviously, we're coming with that free content, so hit the like, hit the subscribe. Check out our Patreon. The link's in the bio. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Peace. Peace.